Welcome back, listeners, to the BizBlend podcast. Now, let's imagine something, you know, and do this with me for a moment. You, um, as a listener, not as a listener, but part of this circle. When where conversations they go beyond trends and touch the places where business, health, and human experience meet. Now, we are going to step into something very interesting here today on this blend. It's a new frontier in holistic health, neurologically informed chiropractic care. Now, when we hear about chiropractic or chiropractic, or it's often seen as backtracks and quick fixes. Those sounds you often see on Instagram or in TikTok or other platforms. But what if I told you it's evolving into something far more sophisticated, something which is deeply connected to the nervous system, brain body communication, and long term performance? Listeners, my guest, Dr. Brian Donovan, founder of NeuroChiropractic in Brooklyn, has built his career at the crossroads of evidence based science and holistic healing. Well, he's not adjusting just spines, he is reshaping how we think about health, resilience, and the stories our bodies carry. So, all of you, lean in because this isn't just a talk about posture or pain. It's about rewiring how we live in our bodies, how we show up in our businesses, and how we sustain the energy it takes to lead, create, and grow. So, Dr. Brian, welcome to the show. And as always, it is such an honor to have you here with us.
Yep. Thank you so much. Honor to be here.
Superb. Okay, Dr. Brian, let's start with defining the frontier here. Now, when you say that neurologically informed chiropractic care, it's quite a heavy term in there. So, what exactly does that mean? I mean, how is it different from what most people, including me, think of when we picture traditional chiropractic?
Right. So neurology is heavily intertwined in chiropractic care. We chiropractors are considered to be neuromusculoskeletal doctors. So that's a three-part component of chiropractic: neuro, muscular, and skeletal. And typically, when people think about the neuro part, they're more thinking of peripheral nerve stuff where you feel like numbness and tingling in your hands or feet. They might be thinking of nerve root in the spinal nerves, thinking of more like weakness or also some of the similar paresthesias. But it goes a little bit more and beyond than that in the diagnostic aspect of chiropractic. We could use neurology to diagnose things like causes of brain fog, causes of dizziness, even pain. For instance, we could look at the patient's eyes, seeing how well their pupils dilate and constrict. And that could lead us to seeing if they're in a parasympathetic or sympathetic state. Going there, we could find out what is causing that sympathetic state. Usually, what it is tight muscles that were priorly injured and never healed and never fully relaxed, causing them to be in this state of fight or flight or freeze, which is the sympathetic nervous system. So, I use neurology in my diagnostics very heavily, but I also use it in my treatment protocols. People that have tight muscles don't necessarily need to be stretched. Sometimes your muscles are causing themselves to be tight through neurology. Your brain wants them to be tight for a certain reason. And if you go and stretch them, you might be actually causing more harm than good. So, what I do is first diagnose what is the neurological component of why that muscle is tight, and how can I use neurology to then fix it. For a tight muscle, I might actually have the patient strengthen that muscle. The body might be screaming at that patient to further strengthen the muscle, therefore causing it to contract. So that's just one example. It goes much more in depth. I know that was pretty long, but I'm trying to give you the most concise version possible for the listeners.
No, that's fascinating, Dr. Brand. That's really, really fascinating. First of all, to understand that how intricately and how um, efficiently, each of the uh, aspect of our entire body holistically, if we see, they're interacting with each other. I mean, they are kind of a department in themselves, but all of these teams or departments, they are interacting with each other. So I think that's a very fascinating aspect of our bodies.
Yes.
Superb, superb. No, and also, I mean, if we think it in the context of entrepreneurs and leaders, I think this kind of shift could mean more than just relief. It could mean performance, because neurologically or mentally, I think entrepreneurs, leaders, they have to take a lot. So we'll definitely get to that. But before that, let's understand from the skeptic's view, Dr. Brian, that a lot of people still see chiropractic care as either temporary relief or um frankly something that lacks scientific rigor. So how do you respond to that skepticism when you are introducing this neurological approach?
Well, I think that most people don't understand the concept of what being a doctor truly means. They kind of downplay chiropractors and not as not being doctors because they don't go to MD school or don't do a residency. That doesn't necessarily define what a doctor is, though, right? If we look at podiatrists or doctors of osteopathic medicine or even dentists, they go to their specialized schools. They don't go to medical school, and they're able to diagnose, treat, perform surgeries, and even prescribe medication. Similarly to chiropractic, I went to 4 years undergrad where I majored in exercise science, did 4 years in chiropractic school, and I'm currently working on my neurology diplomate as well, which is about a 2 year program. So, lengthwise, we're taking about the same amount of courses, and curriculum wise, we're taking about the same amount of credits. We're just specialized in a different area. Medical doctors are specialized in diagnosing and treating pathologies like broken bones, viruses, dermatological infections, or presentations. I'm more on the functional aspect, where a patient may not have a broken bone or a torn meniscus or a sprained ligament, but they may still be suffering from pain. And I have to find what in their life or what structural causes are dysfunctional. That's a word that we use quite often in chiropractic, and it's dysfunction. It's not a pathological problem. We don't need to refer them out to the emergency room for surgery. But we need to work with the patient and find out what is in their life leading to these dysfunctions and how can we treat them in office.
Understood, understood. Mm-hmm. And uh, have you had have you ever had a skeptic become one of your loyal patients? Like, if yes, then what exactly changed their perspective? Or, any kind of similar
Oh,
out.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've had patients just not knowing what chiropractic was. They're like, I don't really know if this works. And I'll use one of my knee patients as an example. 65-year-old female had 30 plus years of knee pain, couldn't walk really well. She was using a walker coming into the office. I basically had a whole treatment plan using different physiotherapy modalities and chiropractic care. About 2 months later, she is at 0 out of 10 pain. She is walking fine without a walker. There is still some gait discrepancies, but in terms of pain, she is completely healed. On her last visit, she actually made my whole office, a bunch of her Trinidadian cultured food, and just to thank. So it was a pretty amazing experience for both of us. And I'm not saying every patient's going to get 100% better in their pain, but if it just goes to show that it definitely works. This patient tried everything. I was about to go into surgery for her knee, and we got her out of that and got her back to living her life. So
Super, super. That is really, really, heartwarming.
yeah,
So, oh, great, great. Especially the Trinidad cuisine that you got to enjoy.
it was pilau, chicken pilau, delicious.
Oh wow. Yeah, I know there's a lot of similarity between Trinidadian and Indian cuisine. Lot of
Mm. I love both.
superb. Okay. And also I think this is a very very much, there are a lot of parallels, when we talk about business because not only in health but in business we all hit that wall where we need evidence, whether it's data or it's a report or it's some kind of, customer customer or a feedback before we invest. And it sounds like, it looks like your work is about bridging both the worlds here, science and lived experience. I think that is
Right.
incredible, Dr. Brian. And let's now talk about the practical applications, especially for high performers. Now, many of our listeners, they are entrepreneurs, founders, executives, business owners, and they are carrying enormous stress. We often say that burnout is inevitable for entrepreneurs, which is actually a huge concern in there. How does neurologically informed care help with things beyond back pain, like decision making or focus or, yeah, even burnout?
Right. So your nerves that come out of your spinal column, right? Those are your spinal nerve roots. They won't present with symptoms, and this is how your body is designed. This is backed by clinical research. They won't present with symptoms like numbness, tingling, or pain anywhere in the body until they reach a threshold of function below 60%. So picture your nerve coming out of your spinal column if you can, and it getting slowly compressed. And it's at now 62% function, and you're still not seeing any pain or you're not seeing any, you don't even notice it, right? So you might not notice it in terms of pain or stiffness or paresthesias, but you're still getting 38% less power through that nerve. And that affects your organs. Like, I don't know about you, but the nerve roots that go to my heart, I don't want them functioning at 62%. I want them functioning at 100%, 100% of the time. And that's something to consider when we're talking about, this high performance level of being an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur myself. I opened up this business in April, and I'm only 20 years old. So I have a lot of stress as it is. Um, and so, with that being said, you want to make sure that you are the best you can be. And that doesn't just mean getting rid of the pain. You might be an entrepreneur in your younger ages and not have any pain, but you want to make sure that every ounce of that energy in your body is flowing through that spinal cord, coming out of those nerve roots, going to those organs so that your body can, number one, function better, number two, heal better. Because eventually that's going to catch up to you to a point where you start feeling pain, and like I said, that now that's below 60% of functioning of that nerve. And at that point, the damage might already have been done. You might have a full on nerve root compression, a herniated disc at that point, and chiropractic care may not be the best solution at that point. So we have to treat the body as a car. You don't go to the mechanic only when your car is broken down, right? You go get your oil changed, you get your tires rotated, and the body's the same way. We are a giant machine, and we have to treat it as such, taking care of ourselves multiple ways.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. And did I hear that right? 20 years old, Dr. Brian.
Once 28 years old, yes, 28. Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. That's incredible. That's incredible. Oh, and yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I mean, definitely it's not one size fits all process, but and I think it's also mirrors business strategy too. Let's say, Dr. Brian, if a busy professional walked into your practice tomorrow, what would the first session look like?
So first session always starts with I ask a simple question: what brings you in here today? And usually I'll hear things like, I have pain, obviously, but certain patients come and say, you know what? I just don't feel like I used to feel. I feel like I'm fatigued and I feel like I have brain fog. I feel like I'm anxious. So right there, that tells me, well, this person's in a sympathetic state. So then I will try to wean out what might be causing this sympathetic state. Are there tight muscles? Are there joint restrictions? Are there compressed nerves? Do we have to take an x-ray to see if there's any compression of the disc spaces? What do their eyes look like? Are their pupils completely constricted or are they dilated? Um, when they do constrict, do they constrict fully? Is there any nystagmus? What does their posturing tell me? Are they in this, what we call tech neck, forward shoulder posture, because they're probably at a desk most of their day? And how does that affect their overall health? So we obviously start with diagnosis and we do a bunch of different orthopedic tests. Um, We do a bunch of different neurological tests, like I said, and it really goes with a conversation. This all is with the patient telling us as much information as possible, what they do during the day, how they eat, what does their sleep look like, right? We have to figure out what may be causing these areas of stress and maybe causing these areas of dysfunction that lead to sympathetic changes. After that, the treatment, like I said, is getting that dysfunction, getting those muscles that are tight back to normal, whatever way that may be, whether it's contracted them with exercises or stretching them, giving them adjustments, putting them on machinery that basically stretches their spine so that they have full free flow of their nerves. Um, yeah, it really comes down to how much information can we extract from this patient and how do we diagnose using that information to our best of our abilities.
Hmm. Mm. Makes sense. That makes sense. Um, and let's also talk about the challenges here, to Brian. Like some might argue, maybe at some point, if I were not aware about chiropractic, I would also have argued that if I eat well, I exercise, I do yoga or meditation, do I really need neurologically informed chiropractic care, or i- is this like adding complexity where simplicity might work?
Absolutely. So there are a lot of people out there that, do exactly what you said, eat right, yoga,
Mhm.
stretch, go to the gym. Unfortunately, though, that probably makes up about 1% of the population. And those are real numbers, unfortunately. So if you're doing that stuff, congratulations, you are the 1%. Sometimes people need a passive aspect, meaning somebody doing something for them or to them, like a chiropractor, like a massage therapist, like a physical therapist, right? We need that extra little help. And just by coming into the office, let's say 2 times per week for a month or two, right? You're going to get yourself into this mindset of, well, I'm going to the chiropractor today. I'm going to think about my spine. I'm going to think about my health. Now I'm coming home doing those exercises that I gave me. I'm still thinking about it. And now you're building these habitual um, things that you're doing that are going to help you feel better throughout your life, right? It takes about 60 days to make or break a habit. And if you're adding all these passive modalities and active modalities at home, then you're much more likely to follow suit with that habit. If you're already doing all those active stuff at home, great. I don't think that you would be even in my office to begin with. But I haven't yet seen a person that's taken really good care of themselves and did everything in the book to the T, and enter my office. It's usually there is some discrepancy, some deficit that needs to be addressed, right? And they're even going with that. There may be a case where a person does all those things but got injured and that injury never healed, and that's not their fault. But that is also a possibility, right?
Mm. Yeah, a- absolutely, absolutely. I think it's such a very important distinction to understand because I believe our listeners, as we all of us, at least have some sense of the wellness industry that it can sometimes pile on too many, must do's or that, long checklist. And it's really encouraging to hear where this fits in the bigger picture. So thank you for giving us clarity on that, Dr. Brian. And before we wrap up, um, it's a very interesting question. Does chiropractic care create dependency? Like in other words, like once you start, do you have to keep going forever to feel better, or it's like, once done, that's all?
No, no, but I think that this misconception comes from the high frequency of chiropractic care, right? Like I said, you're going to come in here 2 times a week, 3 times a week for 3 months. And to some people, that seems like extraneous, right? You're coming all these different times, 36 to 40 times, and it does seem like forever. But the reason why we do that, like I said, is to really target what's going on as much as we can. So it's a high frequency, short duration, but that's what's necessary to really instill rather these habits. If you just came here once a month, yeah, you might feel better after the adjustment, but you're not going to start developing good habits from that. So no, you don't have to come in here for the rest of your life. Hopefully, by coming in here for those 2 to 3 months, multiple times a week, you've already given yourself a one step forward, a leg up on the situation, and now you're able to do more things at home to take care of yourself, right? I always give patients exercises to do, stretches to do. I send them home with traction devices, cervical correction pillows, a bunch of other stuff, just so that they have all the tools and knowledge to treat themselves at home. You don't need the adjustment at home. Adjustment is a great tool, but like I said, if they're already taking care of themselves and doing all these different things, they don't need it at that point. And hopefully, they've built up those habits to now they're doing this every day and taking really good care of themselves going forward after our 3 to 2 month visit.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. Great. So, if our listeners they would like to connect with you to uh, gather more, wisdom and also get access to your resources, Dr. Brian, what will be the easiest way?
Yeah. You could just check our website out at mybrooklynchiropractor.com. We have a bunch of blog posts, more to come, and you could check out all our different modalities that we use, our different treatment methods, and even check out our location. Yeah, that'd be the best way.
Awesome. Awesome. Listeners, I'll make sure to have all the links and details in the show notes for all of you for your easy reference. And as you know, we close down. You know what I'm thinking. I want to express this that um our bodies are not just machines. You know, especially for entrepreneurs and founders, I would say it out loud. Our bodies are not just machines we manage. They are living systems of communication. And what Dr. Brian shared today, it definitely reminds us that health isn't about quick fixes. It's about listening deeply to the whispers, to the signals, rewiring wisely, and honoring the way our nervous system shapes how we lead, work, and live. So, Dr. Brian, thank you so much for this much needed and enlightening conversation and bringing both science and humanity into this discussion.
Thank you so much.
And to all my lovely listeners out there, I hope you walk away with not just insights, but questions worth exploring in your body and business. Because BizBlend isn't just about strategies or hacks, it's about blending what keeps us human with what drives us forward. Until next time, this is your host, Sana, signing off. Thank you.